All right, I want you to picture this. Imagine dedicating your entire life, your whole career, to just one single project. I'm not talking about building a company or anything like that. I'm talking about a book. We're about to dive into the story of a man who did exactly that, and on a scale that is honestly almost impossible to wrap your head around.
So just how big are we talking here? Well, for starters, the final work was split into 5 massive volumes. I mean, just getting 5 books published is a huge deal for any scholar. But believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so what's inside those 5 volumes? Get ready for this. We are talking about 6,500 pages. Let that sink in for a second. That's more pages than the entire Harry Potter series, The Lord of the Rings, and the Chronicles of Narnia, all put together. And this wasn't fiction. This was incredibly dense, scholarly research.
And here's the real kicker, the number that blows my mind. This wasn't something he just cranked out in a few years with a big team of assistants. Nope. This was the work of one man, pouring his focus and energy into it for more than 30 years. It was literally his life's work.
So a project this huge, it just begs the question, right? Who on earth could possibly do this? What kind of person has that kind of focus, that kind of dedication to start something so massive and actually see it all the way to the end?
Well, let's pull back the curtain and meet the man himself, Pandurang Vaman Kane. P.V. Kane, born way back in 1880, was what you'd call a true polymath. He wasn't just a historian or just a lawyer. The man was a master of so many different fields. And that unique blend of skills, well, that was the secret sauce that made his incredible book possible.
You know, it's almost like his entire life was perfectly designed to prepare him for this one task. He came from a family with deep traditional roots, but his dad was a lawyer, so he had this bridge between the old world and the new. His father actually taught him Sanskrit as a kid, and then Kane went on to get degrees in both English and Sanskrit before he even touched law. He was building this incredible, unique foundation brick by brick.
And here you can really see the 2 different worlds he lived in. On one hand, he was a Sanskrit professor, totally immersed in these ancient, complex texts. But at the same time, he was an active lawyer, arguing cases in the Bombay High Court, using sharp, modern legal thinking. It's the super rare combination that let him look at ancient laws with the precision of a top-tier modern lawyer. So we know it was huge. But what was this 6,500-page monster of a book actually about? Let's get into the magnum opus itself.
The subject of Kane's entire life's work was something called the dharmashastra. Now, what is that? It's basically this enormous collection of ancient Sanskrit texts that laid out the rules for, well, for everything. We're talking law, ethics, social rules, the whole shebang. It was like a complete guide to life and law in ancient India.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. The famous historian Ram Charan Sharma put it perfectly. He called Kane's work an encyclopedia of ancient social laws and customs. See, Kane didn't just translate this stuff. He organized it, he analyzed it, he explained it. He made this incredibly complicated subject make sense.
Now here's the crazy part. This whole thing kind of started by accident. It wasn't some grand 30-year plan from the beginning. Kane was just asked to write a short little introduction for someone else's book. But when he started digging in, he realized, whoa, there's no way I can cover this in a few pages. That short intro just snowballed. It became the entire first volume. And from there, it just kept on growing into the masterpiece we're talking about today.
And just to really show you what a machine this guy was, that 6,500-page book, that was only part of his total written work. Across everything he published in English, Sanskrit, and Marathi, Kane produced nearly 15,000 pages. The man was an absolute intellectual powerhouse.
So as you can probably imagine, putting in that kind of groundbreaking work for a lifetime, it gets you noticed. Kane ended up receiving some of the highest honors a person can get.
His own peers, other top scholars, gave him the title Mahamahopadhyaya. It's this incredible sign of respect, and it translates to the greatest among the great teachers. I mean, think about that. That's not just an award you put on a shelf. That's your colleague saying, you are the best of us.
And the official recognition just kept rolling in. In 1947, he becomes Vice Chancellor of the University of Bombay, a huge deal. Then in 1953, his brain is so valued that he's nominated to India's upper house of parliament. A few years later, in 1956, his great work gets a major award. And then the grand finale. In 1963, he received the Bharat Ratna, which is India's highest possible civilian honor.
Okay, so this all happened a while ago. A fair question is, why are we still talking about him? Why does this massive old book still matter so much today?
Well, here's the thing. His book isn't some dusty old relic that just sits on a library shelf. It's a living, breathing document. Because it's so thorough, it gets pulled right into the center of some of the most passionate and sometimes controversial debates happening in India right now.
For instance, let's take a really hot-button issue, a huge cultural and political debate in India today. To answer it, where do you think people look?
And this is what is so fascinating. Both sides of that argument, the people who say it was totally acceptable and the people who argue it was absolutely forbidden, they both use the exact same source to back up their claims. And that source? P.V. Kane's History of Dharmashastra. His work is just so detailed and comprehensive, you can find evidence in it to argue both ways.
And it's not just that one issue. His research is at the heart of debates about historical rites, like whether young women in ancient India could wear the sacred thread, a ritual that for a long time was mostly for men. The sheer authority of his work makes it this essential, and, yeah, pretty complex tool for anyone trying to figure out how modern India connects back to its ancient history.
And that's really the story of Pandurang Vaman Kane. It's just this powerful reminder of what pure dedication can achieve. It leaves us with this one final, really interesting question to chew on. How can one person's quiet, patient, lifelong work digging into the past end up creating the very language for the loudest, most passionate arguments about the future?